So from the study, we had one of the questions, which was an open-ended question, where students could express their thoughts and their feelings about the experience of having distance education during the pandemic. And some negative comments, well, a lot of negative comments, and of course, a lot of also some positive comments were made by the students. Although in the closed questions, it were hard to judge their opinion because they were tending towards being neutral or not having an opinion, saying that they don't have an opinion. When they were allowed the freedom to express themselves, they actually seem to have an opinion. So the comments say, tell us a different story than the quantitative data. Some of the comments were that they hated the experience, or that the quality of teaching was weaker, which was something that was often mentioned, that they feel it's harder to study online than it is to study face-to-face, that they miss campus life, they miss the interaction face-to-face. So those were some of the topics that the students mentioned on their comments. Of course, there were some very specific comments of very specific situations that happened. Also, the technology was mentioned a lot, problems with the technology, internet connection, etc. So these are some of the comments that the students have that were, let's call it, less positive. Of course, there was also some positive comments from the students. Some students really thrive during this period. So they said that it was, several of them, of course, comment that it was very useful exactly because of the pandemic and the lockdown. But they also said it was easier to manage their schedule and their study plans. For students that were working, it was easier to continue their studies through the distance education. Some of them even said that they learned more during the distance education that they learn in face-to-face. They feel more motivated. Some students expressed that they were shy or anxious during face-to-face classes, and they were more able to participate, or they felt more empowered to participate while they were studying from home. So as you can see, we have a wide range of opinions that goes from I hate it to 100% in favor. So there were many different opinions in the students, in the almost 1,000 students that participated in the study. It is interesting to read these answers from the students, because we learn a lot from the reasons behind their choices and their feelings and their experience. So this is one of the things that we did, of course, that was very useful for us. And from this study is coming 2 articles, one with the most quantitative aspects, and were just devoted to the qualitative aspects, which was the answers from the students, their opinions, their thoughts on the issue. Still, during the study, we asked the students their opinion, and overall the most mentioned or the most chosen answers were they prefer face-to-face classes, that have a hard time staying motivated, and that they will miss campus life and the interaction that comes from campus life. Also, other options were given to them for their answers, of course, but they were focused very much on their preference and the communication interaction aspect of their student life. So these seem to be some of the most important reasons behind their opinion about the distance education experience during the pandemic. We also asked them if in the future the distance education model is adopted, what they feel were the conditions needed. What do they need to thrive? What do they need to be successful? And they spoke, of course, about motivation, because that was one of the main reasons for having a negative opinion, was that the motivation declined during these 2 years. Again, the technical aspects, they feel they would need a better internet connection. Please keep in mind that we have students from different parts of the globe participating in the study, and especially the Ukrainian students seem to have faced a lot of technical difficulties. Also, they would need a dedicated study space. This was during lockdown, families were all together at home, which we did not allow them, or many of them, to have a dedicated study space, so they kept being interrupted and distracted by the family environment around them, the family activities, etc. And then they also found out something that we as teachers know, that having good skills at time management is essential for being successful in studying. So more than ever, being able to manage their time was very important during the distance education period. And this is something that we already know from many previous studies about distance education, that this is one of the biggest challenges for the participants, that, you know, at the beginning, they don't seem to have enough skills to manage their time. They feel that because they are home, they have all the time in the world, and that ends up not happening. So these are 4 of the most voted conditions that students feel that in the future they need if institutions of higher education decide to move to a distance education model, or even a blended model. So we asked them what are their preferences. And again, some people prefer to go to face-to-face classes. Some people would like to remain in this model and have only distance education classes. But most of the participants said that they would prefer to go to a blended form of learning, which would allow them to combine the best of both worlds, which means not having to commute as often to campus, allowing them, if they work, they are student workers, allowing them to pursue their studies, to continue their studies. And on the other hand, also have the opportunities that the campus life allows them. So a closer interaction, an immediate feedback, and so on and so forth. So although we had, of course, the 3 options available for them to choose, and some of them choose one or the other, most of the participants said that they would prefer the distance education model. Now, to end my presentation, I'm going to do some final reflection on how we can move forward from this pandemic, although the pandemic is not over yet, and you know, take the lessons from these 2 years and think about the educational landscape in the near future. So this was a unique opportunity, we all agree with them, but this is a unique opportunity to upgrade the educational offer and to update the technical and pedagogical resources and practices. So one of the ways that could help us do this was to migrate courses, to align the curriculum competences, and to scale up teachers' training. Because as the study that I was just mentioned also revealed, students feel that their teachers were not prepared to move to the online environment. And perhaps some of the disengagement from them was because the teachers were delivering classes online the same way they deliver those classes face-to-face, and the models do not work the same. So the online environment, the delivery of classes in an online environment cannot be done exactly the same that we do face-to-face. I am not blaming teachers. We were not prepared for a pandemic, so we had to migrate immediately. And I believe that in most of the cases, teachers have upscaled themselves technologically, but more is needed. So institutions of higher education, which is where I'm focused on, need to think about training their teachers for the online learning instruction. Also, because distance education model was I cannot say it is, but was not yet fully accepted everywhere and acknowledged as a valid and good learning and educational model, we need to strengthen our research efforts. We need to collect data and we need to provide evidence-based practice to the stakeholders of the educational processes, especially to the policymakers, to the ministries of education, to governments. We need to provide evidence that the model can work as long as, a list of conditions are met. But the model can work, and we never know what will happen in the future, so we never know when we will need to, to move again suddenly to that model. So the current frameworks and policies need to be reviewed, and those frameworks and policies need to be strengthened from early childhood to higher education and beyond, which means the learning process, which occurs throughout our entire lives, needs to be frameworked again, and policies need to adapt to that new framework. Why we are again trying to face unpredictable events that may happen in the future, but we are also trying to take the opportunity to protect the most vulnerable students and to allow them the same opportunities that the other students have. Blended learning, as you know, can or should combine the best features of the face-to-face interaction and the online environments that are supported by technology. We could take that lesson and even the preference that apparently many students have for this blended model and take that lesson to the future and apply it in institutions of higher education. So this was in a nutshell what I had to share with you today. I want to thank the organizers of TechHighEd, especially Dr. Sadaf Zamir, who invited me to come here today and be with you and share my research in the field of higher education. My contacts are on the screen, so if you want to keep in touch or if you want to know more about my research, please contact me. My email and my WhatsApp number are on the screen. It was very nice to be here with you. I feel honored with this invitation. I will take the opportunity to wish all of you an enjoyable conference. And of course, for those of you who are celebrating, I also take the opportunity to wish a Merry Christmas. And from Abu Dhabi, especially the UAE to Pakistan, goodbye to all of you. And thank you once again. Masalama.